Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today, we bring you a story full of surprises and hidden angles that few people know about. Don't leave just yet. Just when you think you've figured it all out, there are fascinating and meaningful details waiting for you at the end of the video. Let's explore together and uncover the special message this video has for you. Are you ready? Let's get started. May 1798. A formidable French invasion fleet set sail across the Mediterranean. Over 55,000 soldiers, aboard more than 300 vessels, are escorted by 13 ships of the line. At the heart of this mighty armada is the 120-gun flagship, L'Orient, carrying none other than General Napoleon Bonaparte, France's celebrated hero of the Italian campaigns. Tasked by the French government with a bold new mission, Bonaparte is to lead an expedition eastward to Egypt, the richest province of the Ottoman Empire, and, to the educated minds of Europe, a land steeped in ancient mystique and wonder. After 6 years of relentless warfare across Europe, the French Republic finds itself facing its final and most formidable adversary, Great Britain. The conquest of Egypt is seen as a masterstroke designed to cripple British trade in the Eastern Mediterranean and sever their vital connections to India and the East, lucrative trade networks that fuel Britain's war machine. Moreover, the campaign promises to extend France's revolutionary ideals, liberating Egypt from the shackles of superstition and feudal oppression. Yet France's government, the corrupt and opportunistic Directory, harbors additional motives. Egypt offers the prospect of immense wealth, and more crucially, a means to distance the increasingly popular and ambitious Bonaparte from Paris, where political intrigue and the specter of coups loom ever-present. Napoleon himself is enthralled by the venture, having played an instrumental role in planning it. He views it as a chance to carve his name alongside those of his idols, Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great, dreaming even of an audacious march to India to challenge British rule. As he once confided to his secretary, Brienne, Europe is but a molehill. We must set our sights on the Orient, where the greatest glories are won. Yet the Mediterranean is fraught with peril for the French. While their armies have achieved resounding victories on land, Britain's navy reigns supreme at sea. Decisive triumphs over France's allies, the Spanish at Cape St. Vincent and the Dutch at Camperdown, have solidified British naval dominance. Now, Rear Admiral Sir Horatio Nelson, commanding a squadron of 14 ships of the line, prowls the Mediterranean, determined to intercept the French. Nelson knows a sizable French fleet has departed Toulon, but remains unaware of its destination, which the French have carefully concealed. Undetected, Napoleon's armada charts a course southward along the Italian coast. On June 9th, the French fleet arrives off Malta, ruled by the Knights of St. John, a venerable military order dating back to the Crusades. The island, with its strategic location, is deemed essential as a naval stronghold against the British. Despite their legendary defense against the Ottomans in 1565, the Knights, weakened by internal strife and unpopular among the locals, capitulate to Napoleon in just 2 days. During his brief 6-day stay, Napoleon modernizes Malta's archaic institutions, establishes schools, abolishes slavery, and seizes vital funds and supplies. Leaving behind General Vaubois with a 5,000-strong garrison, Napoleon resumes his voyage to Egypt. Meanwhile, Nelson, now trailing the French fleet, has correctly deduced their target and races to intercept. A stroke of luck, however, favors the French. On the night of June 22nd, amidst thick fog and darkness, Nelson's squadron unknowingly sails within mere miles of the French fleet. Unaware of each other's presence, the two fleets part ways. Nelson reaches Alexandria, finding no trace of the French, and after an anxious 24-hour wait, departs north in frustration. Just hours later, Napoleon's vanguard arrives off the Egyptian coast. Aware of the British threat, Napoleon orders an immediate disembarkation. Under cover of night, 5,000 French troops land and storm Alexandria by morning, swiftly overwhelming its defenses. The remainder of the army, numbering 38,000, largely hardened veterans of the Italian campaigns, follows ashore. Napoleon's 5 infantry divisions are commanded by Generals Bonne, Desaix, Kleber, Manu, and Rainier, while the formidable cavalry division is led by Thomas Alexander Dumas, France's first black general. Born in present-day Haiti to a French noble and an enslaved African woman, Dumas earned renown in Italy, where Austrian forces dubbed him the Black Devil. Among Napoleon's officers are familiar faces from past campaigns, including his tireless chief of staff, General Berthier, and future marshals Murat, Lannes, and Marmont. Notably, the expedition is accompanied by 167 scholars, scientists, artists, and specialists, collectively known as the savants, dispatched to unlock Egypt's ancient secrets and natural riches. Even a hot air balloonist is among their ranks. However, Alexandria proves a bitter disappointment. Once the glorious seat of Alexander the Great, centuries of neglect and natural disasters have reduced it to a dilapidated town of just 6,000 inhabitants. Egypt, nominally under Ottoman rule, is in reality controlled by two powerful Mamluk warlords, Murad Bey and Ibrahim Bey. Originally slave soldiers in service of the Islamic Caliphate, the Mamluks have become Egypt's de facto rulers, feared for their martial prowess and ruthless taxation, which leaves the peasantry impoverished and resentful. Napoleon seeks to exploit this discontent through strategic propaganda, declaring to the Egyptian people, "I come to restore your rights and punish the usurpers. I revere God, His Prophet, and the Quran." In response, Murad and Ibrahim convene a war council at Al-Azhar Mosque in Cairo, rallying Mamluk forces to crush the invaders. Napoleon, ever the strategist, opts for swift action. Less than a day after completing the landing, he sets his forces in motion, advancing rapidly toward Cairo, where the fate of his audacious expedition will be decided. Napoleon gravely underestimates the merciless climate and the desolate, windswept terrain of Egypt. He relentlessly drives his army forward, even as they run out of water and are tormented by unrelenting thirst. Hundreds collapse and perish under the scorching sun, while some, unable to endure the agony any longer, take their own lives. Circling like vultures, Bedouin horsemen stalk the weakened French columns, preying on stragglers, robbing, torturing, and killing without mercy. Even Napoleon's closest confidants, such as Lannes and Murat, engage in heated debates over the wisdom of his decisions. It takes 4 grueling days for the French army to cover the 45 miles to Damanhur, where, to their immense relief, they finally find respite, quenching their thirst and replenishing supplies through trade. Their reprieve comes not a moment too soon, as alarming news arrives. Murad Bey, commanding a formidable force of Mamluks, is advancing from the southeast. Without delay, the French march to intercept them at Shubra Kit on the banks of the Nile. As 4,000 Mamluk cavalrymen come into view, the French are both awed and bemused by their lavishly adorned attire, shimmering with gold and jewels, and an arsenal of exquisitely crafted weapons: pistols, swords, daggers, and lances. Murad Bey boasts with characteristic bravado that he will sever French heads as effortlessly as slicing watermelons. Yet for all their splendor and swagger, the Mamluks lack the discipline and strategic cohesion to challenge a modern European army. Napoleon swiftly forms his troops into colossal divisional squares, bristling with bayonets. The Mamluk cavalry, despite their furious charges, find themselves helpless against the impenetrable French formations. After 2 hours of fruitless assaults, the Mamluks withdraw, having suffered nearly 1,000 casualties, while the French losses are negligible. This decisive victory provides a much-needed morale boost for Napoleon's men, weary from their arduous desert march. The Mamluks retreat to Mbaba, a small town across the Nile from Cairo, preparing for a final stand within sight of Egypt's legendary pyramids, just 9 miles to the south. On the sweltering afternoon of July 21st, Napoleon's 25,000 troops advanced toward Mbaba, arranged in 5 massive divisional squares, with cavalry and supply trains secured within, and artillery strategically positioned at each corner. Ever audacious, Murad Bey positions his elite 6,000 Mamluk horsemen between the village of Biktal and the well-fortified town of Mbaba, which is defended by Ottoman troops and local militia. Meanwhile, Ibrahim Bey remains on the east bank of the Nile with additional forces. Napoleon's battle plan is straightforward. Drive through the enemy's center and crush their right flank against the river. At precisely 3:30 p.m., Generals Desaix and Renier lead their divisions forward, but as they traverse the uneven terrain, their formations begin to falter. Sensing an opportunity, Murad Bey launches a ferocious cavalry assault. The Mamluks thunder across the battlefield with breathtaking speed, but the French, maintaining their discipline, hold fire until the last possible moment. A devastating volley erupts, cutting down horses and riders alike in a scene of utter carnage. Undeterred, the Mamluks regroup and charge again, but wave after wave is shattered against the relentless volleys of French musketry and bayonets. At last, exhausted and demoralized, many Mamluks abandon the battlefield in disarray. Napoleon seizes the moment, ordering Generals Bonn and Weil to advance. The French forces surge into Mbaba, where a brutal massacre ensues. In a desperate bid to escape, hundreds of Mamluks plunge into the Nile, where they drown in droves. Murad Bey, with the remnants of his shattered cavalry, flees to Giza, retreating further south into Upper Egypt. Meanwhile, Ibrahim Bey, watching the debacle unfold from across the river, hastily withdraws to Cairo. In a crushing and one-sided victory achieved in just 2 hours, the Mamluks suffer over 5,000 casualties, including many of their elite cavalry and commanders. French losses, by contrast, are fewer than 300. Ever the master of propaganda, Napoleon dubs this triumph the Battle of the Pyramids, ensuring its place in the annals of history. On July 24th, Napoleon marches triumphantly into Cairo, now a city of 600,000 inhabitants. Large parts of the city lie in ruins, set ablaze by the retreating Mamluks in their desperate flight. Observing the stark contrasts of wealth and poverty, Napoleon remarks that Egypt is a land of immense riches, inhabited by the most wretched, ignorant, and brutish people. Nonetheless, with Cairo in his grasp and the Mamluks scattered, his grand vision of Eastern conquest seems on the verge of realization. Yet the illusion is short-lived. Just 8 days later, disaster strikes. On the afternoon of August 1st, Nelson and his tenacious British Mediterranean squadron finally track down the French fleet anchored in Abu Qir Bay. That evening, Nelson launches a bold and decisive assault. The result is a catastrophic defeat for the French. The mighty flagship Lorient, laden with gunpowder, explodes in a colossal fireball, shaking the heavens. By dawn, the British have annihilated or captured 11 French ships of the line, taking over 3,000 prisoners. With the French fleet destroyed, Napoleon is stranded in Egypt, his dreams of further conquest now in ruins. To make matters worse, most of the French army's treasury has sunk with Lorient, leaving Napoleon and his forces in dire financial straits. Yet, rather than succumbing to despair, Napoleon is invigorated by the crisis. His path is now clear. His army must sustain itself in this foreign land or face annihilation. While General Desaix is dispatched south in pursuit of Murad Bey, Napoleon turns his focus to reshaping Egypt's administration. The antiquated feudal system is abolished, replaced with a more structured administration. He introduces a postal service, establishes hospitals, and implements a new taxation system to regulate the economy. In a bid to align his campaign with the ideals of the Enlightenment, Napoleon founds the Institute of Egypt, bringing together scientists, scholars, and engineers to study the country's ancient wonders and natural resources. Displaying a keen interest in Islam, at least outwardly, Napoleon funds the construction of mosques and encourages the observance of religious festivals. His calculated gestures of respect lead to whispers that he has converted to Islam, though in reality, it is merely a strategic ploy to curry favor with the local populace. Meanwhile, unsettling news from Paris reaches him. His wife, Josephine, has rekindled her affair with an ex-lover, a fact now well known in Parisian society. Distraught but pragmatic, Napoleon consoles himself with affairs of his own, including a liaison with an officer's wife. Despite his efforts, the French struggle to win the hearts and minds of the Egyptians, who largely view them as foreign occupiers and infidels. Tensions simmer across the Nile Delta, with minor uprisings that are swiftly and ruthlessly suppressed by French forces. In September 1798, matters take a dire turn when Sultan Selim III of the Ottoman Empire formally declares jihad against the French. The powder keg of Egyptian resentment is now set to explode. Cairo, October 21st, 1798. A routine disturbance escalates into a full-scale rebellion. General Dupuy, the military governor of Cairo, is called to disperse a gathering, but is met with fierce resistance as locals erect barricades. Overwhelmed, he is slain by the angry crowd. Within hours, the entire city rises in revolt. The French respond with ruthless efficiency, crushing the uprising with disciplined force. The battle rages through the streets, leaving 300 French soldiers dead and several thousand Egyptians slain. In a dramatic gesture, Napoleon publicly pardons the captured ringleaders, but privately orders Berthier to execute any rioter found with a weapon. Swift decapitations followed by unceremonious disposal into the Nile. Although order is brutally restored, it becomes clear that Napoleon will never truly conquer the Egyptian people's loyalty. The following months see the French army languishing in Cairo, plagued by homesickness, dwindling supplies, and the oppressive isolation from France. Communication with the homeland is sporadic at best, and critical shortages, particularly of ammunition and wine, sap morale. To make matters worse, a devastating outbreak of bubonic plague sweeps through the army, thinning its ranks and exacerbating their misery. Meanwhile, in the south, General Desaix leads a relentless pursuit of Murad Bey, venturing deep into Upper Egypt with a force of 2,800 men. In this grueling campaign, one officer emerges as a rising star, Louis Nicolas Davout, a 28-year-old cavalry brigadier, whose tactical brilliance distinguishes him on the battlefield. On January 22, 1799, Desaix and Davout inflict a decisive defeat on Murad Bey, scattering his forces. Yet, Murad himself manages to escape and continues to elude capture. However, even such military successes do little to improve Napoleon's strategic position. His army remains 1,600 miles from France, stranded without reinforcements and with no viable means of return. Desperate for a diplomatic breakthrough, Napoleon pins his hopes on Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, France's shrewd and silver-tongued foreign minister, who had initially championed the Egyptian expedition. Talleyrand assures Napoleon that he will personally travel to Constantinople to negotiate with the Sultan and secure Egypt for France. But Talleyrand never leaves Paris. The Sultan, still seething over France's brazen assault on his Egyptian province, remains unwavering in his determination. There will be no negotiations, no compromise. Napoleon's grand vision for Egypt stands on the brink of collapse. Orders have been dispatched to every corner of the Ottoman Empire, rallying troops to expel the French invaders. Napoleon's situation has never been more precarious. His forces are isolated, ravaged by disease, and surrounded by a hostile population. Yet, in true Napoleonic fashion, he responds in the only way that seems natural to him, as it once did to his idol, Alexander the Great. He will go on the offensive. One of the most crucial skills for any historian is the ability to critically assess sources of information, examining who is providing it, why, and with what biases. Napoleon himself, for instance, was a master of self-mythologizing, often embellishing his own exploits to craft a grand narrative of his life. Today, these same analytical skills are essential in navigating the complex modern media landscape. Consider the ongoing war in Ukraine. Anyone following the conflict knows that news coverage ranges from reliable reporting to overt bias, and even outright misinformation. But how do we distinguish fact from fiction? Fortunately, there's a platform designed to help: Ground News, our video sponsor. Ground News is an innovative website and app that empowers readers with an objective, data-driven approach to consuming the news. Rather than simply aggregating headlines, Ground News provides a comprehensive visual breakdown of the political bias, factual reliability, and ownership behind each story. For example, consider a report on Zelensky's visit to Washington. Ground News reveals that the story was covered by 101 different outlets, with 24 leaning left, 16 leaning right, and the remainder positioned somewhere in between. Users can even explore who owns these media organizations, discovering that 63 outlets are under the control of major media conglomerates. Ground News also offers a unique feature that allows users to compare headlines across the political spectrum. On the right, one outlet might frame the story with phrases like, "Aid prospects are bleak," or "last-ditch plea," while left-leaning outlets might highlight Zelensky fighting for aid or breaking the deadlock in Congress. These comparisons help readers grasp how framing and editorial choices influence public perception. Another standout feature is the blind spot feed, which exposes stories underreported by both sides of the political divide. It helps users break free from algorithm-driven echo chambers and ensures a broader, more balanced perspective on current events. Ground News is an invaluable tool for anyone looking to stay informed while remaining fully aware of the underlying biases shaping their news consumption. It offers a powerful way to break through the noise and gain insights from multiple perspectives. We highly recommend Ground News to our audience, and now is the perfect time to try it out. With their holiday sale, you can enjoy 40% off their Vantage plan, which provides unlimited access to all their premium features. This exclusive offer is available only at ground.news/epichistory or via the link in the video description. It's their biggest sale of the year, so sign up today and support an independent platform dedicated to media transparency. A heartfelt thanks to our Patreon supporters, whose contributions make this channel possible. Find out how you too can access ad-free, early content, and other exclusive perks by visiting our Epic History TV Patreon page. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. If you found this story interesting and meaningful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any exciting content coming up. Leave a comment to share your thoughts. We're eager to hear from you. See you in the upcoming videos with more unique and meaningful stories. Stay with us.